Thank you for joining Plain Pap Church for online service today. Please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly uploads.
No, I don't want my running. I don't want my running to be in vain. No, I don't want my running to be in vain. No, I don't want my running. I don't want my running to be in vain. No, I don't want my running to be in vain. Come on, Georgia man, let's say it. No, I don't want my running. I don't want my running to be in vain. No, I don't want my running to be in vain. Listen, I want to hear him say, well done, when the battle is fought and the victory has been won. I'm glad my soul is heaven bound, and I'll let nothing and no one turn me around. No, I don't want my running. I've made it up in my mind. No, oh no, I don't want my running. I want it to be in vain. Run this race.
Sermon preview.
In the former days of our church, we had on staff an older, fiery elder who, when he felt the power of the Lord, would shake his hand as if he were trying to make it fly off at the wrist, and he would spontaneously be inspired to sing a song whose words were, "I don't want nobody stumbling over me. That is why I pray so hard." And I am certain that the Apostle Paul was cautious lest something like that happen to him when he stated that he stays on himself to keep his human feelings of self-importance in check, so that in no way could it be that after he has preached to others, he himself should end up as a castaway. I don't want my running to be in vain.
Do you have a burning testimony that you want to give? Then please tell us what God has done for you by using the email listed on the screen. Do you have an offering, tithe, or donation that you would like to give Plain Path? Then please use the information on the screen to do so as well. For any further questions, please contact us via email or reach out to our church officials. Now it is time for the sermon.
Related to today's sermon, we'd like you to keep the following information in mind. The basic scenario of today's scriptural passage from 1 Kings 13 and 2 Kings 22 is this. 1. A true prophet of God was to prophesy against a wicked king, then leave. 2. But he was convinced to stay in town and eat instead. 3. The prophet was killed by a lion as a result. And 4. However, his prophecy about the coming of a righteous king, Josiah, actually took place 340 years later, 2 Kings 22. And now, let's move to the sermon.
I don't want my running to be in vain. In 1 Corinthians 9:27, the Apostle Paul essentially says that he stays on himself to keep his human feelings of self-importance in check, so that in no way could it be that after he has preached to others, he himself should end up being rejected by God. But the phrase which the Apostle uses instead of the phrase of being rejected by God is that he didn't want to be a castaway. This thought is in line with the sentiment which the apostle expresses elsewhere when he encourages other believers that their labor in the Lord is not in vain, and also the idea of today's theme song of not wanting one's running to be in vain. A secondary text for today's discourse is found in 1 Kings. At chapter 13, a prophet came out of Judah to Bethel on assignment from the Lord, and King Jeroboam, a slave's son whom God rewarded by making him ruler over 10 of the 12 original tribes of Israel, the other kingdom was called Judah, stood by the altar to burn incense there, evidently to offer it to idols, because he was deliberately causing the people to worship other gods in violation of the commandments. That true prophet cried against the altar, saying, O altar, altar, thus saith the Lord, a descendant of David named Josiah shall be born, and upon thee, altar, shall he offer the false priests who drew Israel away from honoring God and enticed them to worship idols instead, like the golden calves which the king gave to those of his kingdom to publicly esteem, for example. And the prophet further asserted that the bones of the men who were devoted to idol worship would be burnt upon that altar. This prophecy, which essentially signaled the doom of the kingship of Jeroboam and all of his male heirs, and judgment against those who honored those idols, was fulfilled in 2 Kings chapter 23. And when wicked Jeroboam, Israel's king, the son of the former servant of David's who worked hard to now lead the Israelites in false worship so as to keep them loyal to him, and not to the descendants of David's, heard the prophecy, he put forth his hand from the altar to order that his soldiers seize the prophet, but his hand became paralyzed, so that he begged the prophet to pray for its restoration. When the prophet did, the king sought to reward him for that healing, but the prophet declined the offer, because the Lord had instructed him to deliver that message and then immediately depart. When the relatives, the sons of an older false prophet, brought the news of what happened back to their father, he used his influence to lie and hoodwink the young prophet into remaining in town and sharing a meal with him, contrary to direct instruction from the Lord. During the time of his ministering, this true prophet was used mightily of the Lord, even to powerfully withstand a king and to predict what would happen far in the future. But his life ended with his being slain by a lion in the way, for remaining to receive comfort, when instead the Lord instructed him to prophesy and then flee. In case you missed it, here's what happened. A. The true prophet of the Lord was to prophesy against a wicked king, then leave. B. But he was convinced to stay in town and eat instead. C. As a result, that prophet was killed by a lion. D. However, his prophecy about the coming of a righteous king, Josiah, actually did take place 340 years later, according to 2 Kings 22. And this is the basis of our applying the scripture from the Corinthian epistle to this Old Testament narrative. But I stay on myself to keep my human feelings of self-importance in check, so that in no way could it be that after I have preached to others, I myself should end up being rejected by God. 1 Corinthians 9:27. I don't want my running to be in vain. In the end, however, the Lord caused the prophet's words to come to pass those 340 years later, so that ultimately his labor was not in vain in the Lord.
Thank you for joining Plain Pap Church for online service. If you enjoyed the word today, don't forget to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We hope that you have a blessed week, saints. Until next time.